is Nancy Johnston, and I'm the Executive Director of the Minnesota Sex Offender Program. We're going to provide some very basic general information to you about the provisional discharge, and specific to the person that's being provisionally discharged by the court, and his name is Benjamin Gissendanner. The court order for Mr. Gissendanner includes many different conditions that he has to follow, and the department is responsible and accountable for those conditions and making sure that he adheres to those conditions.
The Director of Reintegration for the Minnesota Sex Offender Program. I'd like to tell you a little bit about Ben Gissendanner, how he came to be with us. Mr. Gissendanner is 68 years old. His stats are up there, but he's about 5'10", which puts him about my height. He's obviously African American. He has brown eyes and brown and grayish hair. His residence of location will be in the Dell Township. Mr. Gissendanner was convicted of sexual assaults in 1970 in New York. At that time, he was 23 years old, and he and two accomplices were convicted of the charge of rape, and he was not known to the victim at that time. Following that conviction and incarceration, he was allowed to move to Minnesota. In 1982, he was convicted of criminal sexual conduct at age 35. During that assault, he did break into a woman's apartment, whom he had been focusing on but did not really know, and he did use force and threats of harm to get her to cooperate or comply with the assault. In 1993, he was then admitted to the Minnesota, at the time it actually wasn't the Minnesota Sex Offender Program, but he was admitted to a DHS facility and was ultimately civilly committed as a psychopathic personality and a person who is mentally ill and dangerous. We do have a court order that does provisionally discharge Mr. Gissendanner to the Dell Township area, and he will be moving into that location just after Labor Day. It was talked a little bit earlier about the community notification process and the leveling. I think it is important for you to know and understand that Mr. Gissendanner is actually identified as a level 1, registered offender as a level 1, which means he does pose a low public risk to the community. But because of the law change in 2013, we are doing a broad community notification.
I'm Karina Schmitz. I am the Regional Director for Red River Bluffs. We do services in Olmsted and Winona counties. We have been doing services for people with disabilities, mental illness and brain injury in Olmsted County since 1980. We have been doing services for people with disabilities who have an offender past, specifically a sex offense, for 9 years in Olmsted County. We have been operating at this home in the Dell Township for 8 years already, serving people with disabilities and an offender sex offense past. So we have been in your community for that long already, and there has been no reoffenses, no issues in that time that we have been in this community. We do not seek out to serve people with a sex offense past or a criminal history in any way, but we do serve people with disabilities, and unfortunately, people with mental illness and disabilities of any sort sometimes get involved in the legal system. We have a pretty secure home. We have staffing around the clock. We have alarmed doors and windows in this location, and we've been there for 8 years without incident.